Here you have Jesus Christ, who, according to the dogma, was 100% God and 100% a man. But, well, to be honest, I don't see a 100% man in this picture. And to the limit of my knowledge, there is one icon depicting Christ with a penis. And the question is, why? Why? The same goes for the female body, which is depicted in a kind of a distorting way. Yesterday we had a tour with my beloved students, and this is a picture I took in the so-called, how you call it, Metropoli, the church of St. Eleftherios, which is just besides the cathedral of Athens. What you have here, I mean, this church is quite popular for having incorporated a number of ancient Greek classical pieces of various types. This is Silenos, who was put there, but as he was put in a Christian church, he had to be Christianized. And this was done in two ways. First, by putting crosses on each side of his body, and the second, which is not very clear in the picture, I'm sorry, is that he was vandalized in a specific area of his body. And when I saw this picture yesterday, I thought I couldn't find a better picture which shows exactly this Christian castration of human sexuality, which is one of the most important Byzantine or Christian innovations. Again, I believe not a very positive one. Why is this important for us? Because if you ask me, and well, I have grown up almost within the church, and I consider myself a Christian, I think. I believe that the Orthodox Christian Church does its very best to keep this mutilation praxis alive, even if using more sophisticated ways than this one. Let us jump over to something which is a huge Byzantine innovation and a huge positive contribution of Christianity in the church in the development of in human history in general. What you see here is a church, but I will speak about hospitals in Byzantium. Let me start by saying a few words about philanthropy in Byzantium. The very concept of philanthropy is innovated in Byzantium because in antiquity, in Greek antiquity, philanthropy is the love of a god to a human. You know that ancient Greek gods did not love the humans. No love between them. So philanthropy was the exceptional case where when a god had some love feelings for a human. In Byzantium, the concept of philanthropy becomes totally different. It has to do with the love of a human to other humans or to another human. And philanthropy in Byzantium was one of the main virtues that were demanded by the emperor. The emperor has to be a philanthropist, and he has to show that, to demonstrate that in various ways, some of them being institutionalized. Byzantine philanthropy was based on the long tradition of the ancient Greek philanthropy and hospitality, the ancient Greek tradition of hospitality, and the Christian philosophy of the love of your neighbor. I mean, you shall love your neighbor as yourself, writes Matthew in his Gospel. Philanthropy in Byzantium gets also a metaphysical dimension, which is very important because it becomes very central on the way to salvation, which means what? You will sin, of course, sex is very central when it comes to sin, but the best antidote towards sin is philanthropy. So you do philanthropy, you can cover a lot of other sins. Hospital as an institution, as we know it today, is a Byzantine invention and a Byzantine innovation, of course. The first hospital, we believe, that was something like what we have today in mind when we speak about hospitals was the so-called Vasilias, which was an institution established by Saint Basil the Great, which is the Greek Santa Claus, but he was not like me. What was that? It was an institution just at the gates of the city of Caesarea, where Basil was a bishop, and it was an institution that had the capacity of approximately 600 beds, and it was to receive needy people, homeless, ill people, specifically lepers, whom Saint Basil visited himself every day. But do not think of an organized hospital, do not think about doctors and medical assistants and so on yet. This is something that appears in Byzantium in the 9th or 10th century, when what they called xenones, until then got the name of iatria, which means that from then on you have also doctors performing some medical services. To give you the picture before the Byzantine hospitals in late antiquity were in reality buildings or institutions that collected people who needed aid of any kind, and in particular those who could not provide for themselves, what in Greek was called penites. What is this then? This is what you see here is what remains today in Constantinople, for the rest of the world Istanbul, but for us the Greeks still Constantinople, and what remains from the Byzantine monastery of Christ Pantocrator. Another innovation, the very name Pantocrator for Christ, but anyway, not now. So why do we have this thing here? Because the monastery of Christ Pantocrator had its own hospital. The monastery was established in 1136, and almost from the very day of its existence, it established a hospital within the monastery. Let me give you some numbers, and I'm sure you will be impressed. So the monastery, or the hospital of the monastery, had 50 beds, 5 clinics, 2 clinics in general medicine, 1 in surgery, 1 in gynecology with a female doctor, and 1 in ophthalmology. Later, the complex included a leprosarium and a home for the aged. What we know all that from the typikon of the monastery. The typikon is the text, in reality, the rules for the function of the monastery. With the establishment of any new monastery, somebody has to write the typikon, so that it's the kind of a constitution for the function of the monastery. We know from the rules there that there was rotation of the doctors in all the departments, so that they would rotate also their expertise, their education. The rooms of the hospital were heated, we know. I didn't have the time to confirm how we know that, but we know that the patients were nourished with 3,300 calories per day. This is not what we find in the Byzantine text. There are some calculations done in modern times, and we know that the clothes of the patients were washed, repaired, and if not reparable, exchanged with new ones. So we're talking about a total of 99 people as medical staff, 50 beds, I repeat, which means 27 doctors among them, which means that you have a rate of 1.8 staff per bed, or one doctor for each 2 patients. Can you think of a hospital today that has such a rate? I don't think so. A last slide. Byzantine art. Sometimes you hear that Byzantine art was primitive, or that's rubbish. Byzantine art is brilliant. It has some fantastic elements. I mean, its 2-dimensional character is one of the things I really love, because this is a departure of a kind of a slavery to aesthetics. Why? Because Byzantine art shows that the inner beauty is what is important, not what the senses can see and understand and evaluate. This absence of shadow in Byzantine art, a total absence of shadow, which gives the light the protagonistic role, and many, many, many other things. It also has to do with the content of Byzantine art, what they painted, what they made, and so on. There is another reason I'm showing you this slide. You see the personifications of the sun and the moon. I mean, the picture is not very clear, but you see that there is a human being here and another. This is a kind of a typical thing. You have it in antiquity as well. These are personifications of whatever. So I remember I gave a lecture once, some years ago, and there was somebody who stood up and said, you know, I read a paper on this very picture, which proves that the Byzantines knew of the existence of UFOs. Anyway, to get back to our case, this is another fantastic thing which you don't have in Western Europe and Western Europe Christianity, which is this combination of the crucifixion with the resurrection. And this is a very lovely thing in Byzantine art, because it gives hope the whole time. I mean, crucifixion is not the end, it's just the beginning. The death is not at the end, it's just the beginning. So, a last thing, to sum up. After all these things, I could also speak about a number of technological innovations in agriculture, in technology, military technology, whatever. What you read normally in modern scholarship about Byzantium is that Byzantium was an anti-innovative civilization, or at least a civilization skeptical towards innovation. And I mean, common logic says Byzantium survived for 11 centuries. You simply cannot survive without being innovative. So whenever you hear that Byzantium was an anti-innovative civilization, think that this evaluation of Byzantium is first based on a very selective, and if you ask me, an inefficient study of concrete, specific, textual and only textual sources. We can discuss it that if you wish. The second thing is that when you hear about Byzantium as an anti-innovative civilization, you have evaluations based on a wrong, I believe, understanding of what innovation is in the first place. Because if you think about innovation as something related solely to economy, technology and so on, then you may think that, yes, probably Byzantium was not very innovative. That's rubbish as well, because one of the most important innovations of Byzantium was solidus, which was the coin issued by Constantine the Great, which is a fantastic innovation. It was, you know, that it was the most stable coin in human history. It had the same, exactly the same value for over 7 centuries, if I remember well, until the middle of the 11th century or something. But anyway, any historical entity, when we get back to study innovation in any period, any geographical place, any civilization, any culture, any society, any state, we realize that anyone, think of yourselves. We are innovative in some areas. We are not innovative in other areas. We are conservative in some things. And there are always cases where the powers of what we call inertia are more powerful than the powers of innovation. This was the case in Byzantium. And if you ask me, Byzantium was much more innovative than Western Europe at the same time. But this is something I have to fight with a lot of colleagues on. So now I have a problem, I understand. So thank you very much. I'm just trying to avoid that Euron says, okay, Apostolos, enough is enough. So thank you for being patient. No one is sleeping yet, so that's a good sign. They sleep all the time when but they are kind of gentle and kind today. Okay, thank you very much.